Hello and welcome to another episode of the Health Bridge podcast. I'm your host, Holly B. Today I have Art Giser on the program. Art is the creator of Energetic NLP, which blends over 36 years of expertise in neuro-linguistic programming, energy work, and intuition development to help individuals clear blocks and unlock their potential. As a master healer, NLP trainer, and executive coach, Art has worked with Fortune 100 companies like HP, Intel, and Pfizer to cultivate exceptional leaders and high-performing teams. His unique background includes 11 years of managing a research lab at UCSF Medical School, where he specialized in reproductive endocrinology, where he merged science, leadership, and energetic healing for transformative results. Throughout this conversation, Art is exceptional at really explaining the energetic fields, really explaining what neuro-linguistic programming is and how the combination of using energy and using NLP techniques can really help affect you on physical and spiritual and energetic levels. So we dive in with getting into what reality is, right? Like we all have this individual map of reality, and he's going to discuss that. And then we discuss the importance of play, the importance of imagination, and the role that those take in your healing journey, in your growth journeys. And then how we also talk about how to connect with your, what he calls your miraculous self in order to become more empowered in challenging situations like facing a diagnosis, like some huge life change or a loss, or maybe starting a new job, having some sort of new beginning, something that is out of your, out of your depth and causing some emotional upset, some turmoil, or just some challenging emotions. Make sure that you stay till the end of this conversation because Art leads us in a really thorough, wonderful meditation to guide you to creating a relationship with your miraculous self and then how that miraculous self can help you in your healing journeys. So that's definitely something I promise you you're going to want to save and refer back to. So I'll just tell you now, go ahead and make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast and save this episode so you can refer back to it whenever you feel called to. With that, I really want to introduce you now to Art. Let's dive in. Art Giser, welcome to the Health Bridge podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Well, I'm really thrilled to be here. I've listened to some of your podcasts. I love what you're offering to people. I think it's really important. So I'm grateful to be part of it.
Awesome. Well, I know you're going to add a lot of value, and I gave your, brief introduction to you in the intro to this episode. And we'll get into your background. We'll get into what is, NLP and all those details. But I kind of want to start with the idea of reality, the concept of reality, and how we can have, I think you called it, we each have our own map of reality. And can you dive into that? What do you mean by that? And how does this take us into what you do with NLP?
Great. And later, like I said, I'll talk about what NLP is and what energetic NLP is, the field I've created. But one of the wonderful things I learned from NLP was the idea that we think that we're all dealing with the same reality, but reality isn't out there, it's in our brains. And it's why you can have 10 people at the same situation, and some of them think it was terrible, some think it was wonderful. We're all creating a different internal reality. And that's something that we're not aware of till we start paying attention to how we're doing it. It has to do with a lot of unconscious processes, conscious processes. In fact, some of my NLP teachers used to say that the main function of your brain is to screen out information, to screen it out. because we're bombarded with enormous amount of information all the time. And unconsciously, we decided what's important to pay attention to and what isn't. So an example of that, I've worked with people that are classic nerds, and I don't mean in the more positive sense of that, like they're computer genius, people that are just socially inept. And typically what it is they are not paying attention to nonverbal cues. They just never learned to do that for some reason. They're not noticing people's expressions, not noticing tones of voice. And when you teach them to start noticing that, all of a sudden their relationships with people vastly improve because their internal reality, that just wasn't part of it. And it has to do with everything in our life, how we think of time, other people, our self-concept. Everything is based on these internal maps.
So I used to have this recurring conversation slash potentially mild argument with my boyfriend where he would say, "You're just being so negative." And I would say, "I'm not being negative, I'm being realistic."
Mhm.
And it took me a long time to realize that, in fact, he was, at least in most cases, he was right. It was the reality in my own head of the situation in front of me that was causing me to see things a certain way. And when I think it's always a work in progress for people with
Mhm.
this. It's something we're always managing, but when you can start to become aware of what's outside of potentially that reality and that there are actually multiple realities that could be going on at any given time, it's that really puts a light bulb on in your head.
Oh, it changes everything in your relationships with people when you realize. I used to do a lot of work in corporations on leadership and Fortune 100 companies and team development. And I would get feedback from people. I'd interview them before the team meeting. And sometimes the team was in good shape. Sometimes they like hated each other. And it was almost all down to the meanings they were making of other people's behaviors. And when people would realize that, often they would just start laughing, realizing that, well, I'll give one example, and I think it fits in with what you were saying with you and your boyfriend, is that a lot of us, I shouldn't say a lot of us, some of us, and me too, when we agree with something, we don't necessarily mention it, but we think it's our job to point out what could go wrong or what needs improvement. So we think we're helping by pointing these things out, and the other person feels like we're being critical. And one of the things that I learned when I first studied NLP is that people go, Art, you're thinking all these positive thoughts. You don't necessarily express them. If you express those too, then people take I don't even want to call them criticism, but I might talk about, well, here's how I think that would go wrong. But I wasn't mentioning what I appreciated. And so the balance would be off. And once I started telling them what I appreciated, then they were open to the other part. So, but again, my map of reality was I'm being helpful. You know, that wasn't their map.
Right, right. Yeah. No, and that example really helps too. And why is it? I find it is harder sometimes for people to, myself included, sometimes remember to actually say the compliment instead of just thank it, or say that positive instead of just thank it. Wouldn't that make such a difference if we all would focus as much on that as we did on the other?
Incredible. And a lot of it, though, is societal programming and ancestral programming that, for one thing, like with the corporate work, often people they'd go, well, if I give that compliment to my boss, they'll think I'm kissing up. They'll think, and I remember one of my clients, he was a VP in a big international company, and he really admired his boss. And in his boss's retirement, he just said all these incredible things about him. And later I went, did you ever tell him any of that before he retired? And he goes, no. And because as soon as I said it, he got it. And I go, I know we think, oh, they're going to think I'm this or that, or I'm being ingenuine. So there's just a lot of programming that tells us not to do that. And oddly enough, there used to be an old magazine called Reader's Digest that I didn't particularly like, but they'd have little life hints in the articles. And it was a common thing to have like in the dentist office or something. And I was a kid, and I remember reading this thing, and it mentioned that people think all these great things and they never say them. And I started doing it more after reading that. Not enough, but I remember thinking, oh my God, they're right. you know, I think I was in high school or something. I thought, oh, you're right. I don't mention a lot of what I approve of. And a lot of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is learning how to communicate better.
Absolutely, yeah. So why don't you dive into a little more in depth? What is neuro-linguistic programming, and then where have you taken it with the energetic NLP?
So NLP, again, stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and we all hate them for naming it that, rather than something more simple. And if you've never heard of it, I'm talking to the listeners. If you've never heard of it, you've heard of the most famous person in our field, who is Tony Robbins. Now, he has his own style that you can like or not, and his whole, I'm going to dominate you into changing, which is not my style. But the core of his power to change people's lives comes from his study of NLP. And I think he started about a year before me, maybe a couple of years, and he did a little better with the marketing. And he helps a lot of people. Again, you can like his style or not, but the core of his abilities comes from the NLP. And the people who started NLP were reacting to what was common in psychoanalysis at the time, which was the belief that a deep change had to take years. I remember a wonderful woman psychologist telling me, well, she goes, I'm going to have to work with a client for at least 5 years to make a deep change. And that was the prevailing belief. In fact, there's an old Woody Allen movie where he's talking to his girlfriend and he goes, I've only been in therapy for 12 years, And it was very well intentioned, but it was all based on the idea that you had to figure yourself out. You had to know, why did you get the way you are? What happened? What did mom or dad do? And I'm not saying that can't be valuable, but it's just not true that you have to do that. And that can be a really long, slow process, particularly the way that they did it. It was all, the belief was that the insight would set you free eventually. And the people who started NLP went, well, we know of therapists who get really rapid, deep changes in people. So, what are they doing differently? So they started studying them and videotaping them. And this is when, videotaping, you had to have this big machine. So it was like a big thing to do. And they started applying things from something called transformational linguistics to start analyzing what was really going on. And that's when they realized, like, it isn't so much what's happening in the external world, it's how you're creating your internal world. And so let's say a phobia, if somebody has a phobia to crossing a bridge, in traditional therapy, you could spend years and years working on it and do desensitization. In NLP, they would go, no matter how you got that way, your mind has to keep creating it. So can we change that pattern, that program, like a computer program? Because to have a phobia of a bridge, every time you get to a bridge, your brain has to go, oh, phobia time. And so NLP could do things much more rapidly. And you can also do the deep work. So it's an incredible field. You can do miracles. A lot of work was and is being done on health. And even with allergies, there's NLP techniques for allergies that when I first heard about it, I was already an NLP trainer, but I'm thinking, that can't work. Allergies are just physical. Well, it turns out nothing is just physical. There's a whole recognized field of psychoimmunology that how you think and your thoughts and your emotions are affecting your body and your immune system and your responses. So we actually can, not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time in a session, you can change an allergy, which is mind-blowing. So, but about the same time I was studying NLP, so here I'm coming from my research background at NLP, which is a very logical system. We use metaphor and hypnosis, but it's still very logical. And at the same time, I started studying more about psychic development, healing, energy work, and I realized you could do miracles with those fields too. So I started weaving them together, and that was the birth of energetic NLP. So I bring together the neuro-linguistic programming, spiritual principles, healing and transformative energy work, particularly remote energy work, and the development of people's intuition. So all of that together is energetic NLP.
That's awesome. I had no idea that you could use this necessarily for things like allergies. So it's really fascinating.
Like I
Yeah,
said, I didn't believe it at first. It was like, they're just physical.
right. Exactly. Yeah. So again, that goes back to our own map of reality, right? Of what we actually conceive of as possible or not possible. You know, everybody, like you said, has their own experiences of what's going on right in front of them. And so being able to step outside of that box, even if it's just to peer around and decide if you're quote unquote right or not, I think it's so important to learn how to have that skill. So how do you start walking somebody through a process? And like maybe let's take health for an example. Obviously, people I work with, the women I work with have autoimmune conditions like lupus. And I mean, there's so many layers here.
Yes.
You get a diagnosis of lupus, it's a life sentence. That's at least what we're told.
Right.
There's no cure. You're going to be on and off of medications your whole life, most likely. How can we apply energetic NLP to our perceived limitations around our possibilities for healing?
And that's a great question. And let me just say something that's legalistic and it's important, and it's something I know you appreciate. I'm not giving medical advice. I want it's like I teach people how to be healers, but I'll tell people I go to the doctor. It's like I don't believe that there was this healer in Brazil who used to say, who did miracle healings, and he'd go, doctors are God's light workers too. Now, not all of them, but not all healers are God's light workers either. So, uh, I always think people should follow both routes, both a standard medical route and a complementary route, is what I personally believe in. And if you don't like your doctor, find another doctor. If you don't like your healer, find another healer or spiritual teacher. Um, but so I just want to say all that, but coming back to like how we approach it. So in energetic NLP, one thing that's different about what we do than a lot of energy teachers and spiritual teachers is I'll tell people, often I make them take a pledge that they're not going to believe anything I tell them. People, the new people always look at me like, what? And I go, I'm totally serious. They go, I don't want you to believe anything I'm telling you. I made up a term, I call it beliefs du jour, like soup du jour, my beliefs of the day. And I go, I'm just telling you what I think based on my experience and my clients and students' experiences as of now. 5 years from now, hopefully I'll have something better to say. So when I tell people, and I think it's very unique to energetic NLP, I'll tell people, I want you to consider what I'm saying. I want you to play with it. I don't want you to believe it. My goal is always that people connect more with their own inner wisdom and their own spiritual information. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. So for people listening, when I talk about things, I'm not asking you to believe anything I'm saying. I want you to play with it, explore it, and you'll find your own truth with it. So in energetic NLP, we always do one thing at the beginning, and I can take people through this in a little bit, is we create something that we've called your miraculous self. Your miraculous self. Or sometimes we just say your M for short. And your miraculous self is different than your high self. Whatever your high self is or isn't, it just exists. It's something that just is. Your miraculous self is something that only kind of exists until you work with it. You can think of it like a muscle in the body that you don't use. So it exists, but it can't do much. But you start working with it, it becomes flexible, it becomes strong. You can do things with it. The miraculous self is formed when somebody's spirit and their deep inner human wisdom come together, aligned to guide the person, nurture them, heal them, and help them manifest. So guide them, nurture them, heal them, and help them manifest. And sometimes people go, well, isn't my spirit automatically aligned with my deep inner human wisdom? And the answer is no. The parts of your life that really flow, probably, but it isn't an automatic. And people use the word spirit to mean different things. So in energetic NLP, we embrace the idea that we have a physical body and we also have an energy body, an energy field. that people commonly call, aura, chakras, energy channels. And but I like when people nowadays go, well, I don't believe in invisible fields. I go, really, ever gotten a sunburn? It isn't the visible light that burns you, it's the invisible light. Your life, do you see the energies your cell phone is operating off of? No. And it's gratifying to me that now science, it is part of science, it is part of physics, it is part of medicine now, that our bodies generate energy fields and even light. And that's now proven over and over again. And they'll measure people's brain waves, but it's not just your brain waves. So your body's generating all those energy fields, and that's just science now. Now, they're not measuring all the energies that I work with yet. They will eventually. And there are actually energy machines, but that's a whole other topic. But the point is, you have an energy body and a physical body that are intertwined. And even as I know now in physics, even solid matter is energy. Everything's energy. So I just like to say to people, when we're talking about having an energy field, that's a fact. What you believe about it is debatable, but those are facts. So what I'm calling a person's spirit is the higher frequencies of their energy field, the higher frequencies of the non-physical self. And not, that's just the way I'm using that word. And when you get up into those frequencies, you get into, it's almost like the perfect parent. That aspect of yourself is going, whatever you want, dear. You want to have perfect health? That's a valid spiritual path. You want to learn through diseases or problems? Another valid spiritual path. Now, when I say you want to, I don't mean consciously, of course. But so your spirit has this vast perspective, and it just sees the big picture on everything. And it sees all these valid spiritual paths. Your deep inner human wisdom is wisdom, but it's very practical, very tied into your normal life. So when your spirit and your wisdom are working together, you get the advantage of the big perspective, but you also get it translated into, like, how do you make your human life happier, better, and more successful? Is that all making sense so far?
Yes.
Yeah, great. And it turns out it's super simple to create your miraculous self. And again, I can show people how to do that in just a little bit. So in energetic NLP, the role for the conscious mind is you set your intentions and then you give 100% permission to receive the benefits. Because one of the things that's lacking in a lot of the talk about, set your intentions, is just because you set an intention doesn't mean your unconscious mind and your energy field is going to accept it. I used to think when I was first working with people, like, well, gee, the person really, I know they really, really want this, but they're just walled off and not letting this happen.
Really quick, Holly B here. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast to ask you for a quick favor. Can you take just a moment to like and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are listening in on? It makes a world of a difference. And the reach of this podcast, it takes like literally under 10 seconds. So go do that right now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And now back to the episode.
And then I realized, like, well, intention isn't just a conscious thing. Your spirit has intentions, your soul has intention, your conscious mind has intentions, your unconscious mind has intentions, your body has intentions, and you exist in a karmic field, and you have what are called spiritual contracts, which are agreements that your spirit has made. So when people talk about intentions, they're only talking about conscious intentions most of the time. And sometimes they extend it to unconscious intentions, but still that isn't enough. You need to look at the whole picture. So in every energetic NLP process, you set your intentions, you give permission to receive the benefits, then you give permission for your miraculous self to guide you on the journey. In other words, you let go of conscious control. Because so much of what is going on with people, I don't care how much you're into personal and spiritual development, there are a lot of things you're not going to understand. You're only going to understand a portion of it. So when you put your miraculous self in charge, you have all the wisdom of your spirit and your deep inner human wisdom, and it knows like what your unconscious programming is, what your karma is. It knows everything that's going on with you. And then the next role for the conscious mind is imagination. So there's an old principle, a lot of people have heard it. Energy flows where attention goes. Energy flows where attention goes. People also say energy follows your thoughts and intentions. And it sounds too easy, but when you think of something, you start bringing in those energies. So like, if I was working with a group of 5-year-olds and I went, okay, let's imagine the room is filled with sparkling gold energy, it would be. I'd have to put my sunglasses on, and they wouldn't be going, is this true? Am I doing it right? They just go, oh, we're playing. So in energetic NLP, even when we're dealing with serious problems like autoimmune, we in the work, we try to be playful with it. And it's okay to, you'll have other thoughts, but we keep coming back to like, let's just be playful with this and see what happens. And then my role is to bring energies in for the person to use. So one of the things that I'm proficient in and that I teach other people to do is remote energy work. And for a lot of people, that sounds way too woo-woo. And in physics, there's the idea of non-locality, meaning something is everywhere. And they talk about their energies can be everywhere, not just in one place. And so I don't know how it really works. All I know is that if I'm in the same room with somebody, if I'm touching them, if they're thousands of miles away, it just doesn't make any difference. The energy's there. And however the heck it works, it works. And in fact, most of my clients I do over Zoom, and most of my classes I do over Zoom. I have clients all over the world, and it just works. But what helps it work is during the processes, if people imagine the energies are coming in, it makes it stronger because that opens up the abilities of your unconscious mind and your miraculous self to work with the energies. And what makes it, I think, extra cool is you don't need to believe it. So I'll tell you, this isn't faith healing. I mean, I have nothing against faith healing. It's not what I do.
This is a reminder. I haven't. Wait.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
But I'm just going to let it stop again.
This is a reminder.
I can cut that out. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Productively with
I
I.
meant to turn that off. See, what was I talking about? So that when you use your imagination, you open up all these abilities. So, but you don't need to believe it. You just need to be playful with it. And so those are some things that are unique about energetic NLP is you don't have to believe any particular thing. You don't have to figure it all out. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for figuring things out. It can be helpful sometimes to go, oh, I get this is the way I am because this is what happened. But that's usually not the fast track to making change. That can be satisfying. And it's like when they first started talking about the adult children of alcoholics. That was really helpful for a lot of people to go like, oh, there's a reason I am the way I am. But then there'd be some people like 10 years later would be going, well, I'm an adult child of an alcoholic. So that's why, it can move over to being an excuse pretty easily. In an energetic NLP, most of the time, we just go, your spirit and your inner wisdom, your miraculous self can figure this out. You just need to be open to it. And working on conscious beliefs can be very important. So again, those are the basic elements that you set intention, you get permission to receive the benefits, you get permission for your miraculous self to guide the process, guide you on the journey, and then you just use your imagination. And then later, you can analyze it to your heart's content.
That actually sounds so much nicer than having to go in not thinking that you're going to have to analyze every little aspect of your life. I mean, I've done a lot of that. I spent a lot of time trying to analyze and figure out why I was the way I was. And at the end of the day, it didn't really help that much, even though, like you say, I can totally understand that benefit.
Yeah.
And my mind works logically like that. Like I want to understand the path from A to B to C to D. Yeah. Also, sometimes depending on the person's situation, that can just be too freaking overwhelming. Oh. And they just need some relief quicker than that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, introspection's wonderful. It says, for me, separate that out from personal change and growth. that it's great to do the intersect. I know I was attacked by a dog when I was 4 or 5, and I'd have rabies shots, and it was very traumatic. But, and knowing that was like, okay, that's helpful to a point, but it
Right.
didn't change anything. It's like,
You still have to deal with now
yeah.
where you are and how you react to other dogs or the idea of, medical procedures, right? So
And,
how
and
is knowing that going to help you move forward?
yeah, and the thing is, again, what's more important from an NLP and an energetic NLP perspective is what's existing in the moment in terms of your thought patterns, your programming, your emotional patterns, and work with those directly. And that's usually more powerful. Now, the one caveat I'll put on that, and the guest, I think it was your guest talking about manifestation, talked about a version of this. It's different than how I do it. But when you can go back to those events, and she talked about imagining them working out differently. And that, I do want to say that can be very powerful. Or you can imagine going back in the time machine and coaching the younger you, whether it was a year ago or 50 years ago. And what I'll often do with people is they'll go back and they'll tell the younger you, this is what's going to happen. And I'm here from the future to know you lived through it, or whatever the situation is. But they like prepare them so that their internal map of reality doesn't get changed in a negative way, which is what often happens. And then you can even go back in time and debrief your younger self, and give it support. So I do want to say there's a lot you can do there, but that's not the main emphasis of what I do.
And so, yeah, I am familiar with that concept of basically rewriting
Yeah.
your story, right? Or reparenting your child self, offering comfort to when that wound happened, when it started, if there was specific instances that led to the patterning you have now. And I also agree that that's really powerful. But let's take this into current times.
Mhm.
So say somebody is in the doctor's office dealing with a lupus diagnosis or something of the sort. It's a scary situation to be in, for one. So there's fear and trepidation involved. A lot of time when it comes to autoimmune conditions, it can take years to get diagnoses and to really figure out what's going on. And there can be a lot of gaslighting involved. I hear it over and over and over and over from the people that I speak with. How can somebody use NLP, energetic NLP, to kind of move forward a little bit more empowered when they go into these situations, when they go into the doctor's office, when they're, preparing for possible diagnosis news or waiting for the results of tests? I assume that that's something that energetic NLP can also assist with.
Oh, absolutely. And because people are constantly programming one another, and we do it verbally, but we're doing it energetically. It's just what human beings do. And for a lot of people, I didn't like this idea at first. I didn't want it to be true. But our energy fields are like sponges, and they absorb energies from other people. And other people's energies have thoughts and programming and emotions in them. At first, that may sound strange to people, but all communication is done through energy. So if anybody listening to your podcast, it's all being done through energy. Even if we're in the same room together, we move our mouths and our tongues, and it sends energy, through the molecules in the air, and that energy hits our ears and gets mechanically and energetically and chemically translated into signals that our mind decodes as information. So energy is the only way that any communication ever happens. And on the inner level, we're all the time trying to program other people. It's just human nature. So how that applies to what we're talking about is, with the best of intentions, doctors are trying to program their patients, and they're not aware they're doing it energetically too. And like say I was a researcher at a medical school for 11 years, 90% of the time they're giving you the best information according to their map of reality, which is more limited than yours and mine. And so one of the things that we teach people to do is to have your miraculous self deprogram you, particularly after you leave. And your miraculous self can go, okay, here's the part of what they were communicating that was helpful. Here's the parts that aren't helpful. And it's not like positive or negative. It's just helpful, not helpful. And our miraculous selves can do that and pull out that programming. Then you can actually ask for a download. And I can take people through this. Because your listeners are all programmed, so we can do this in just a minute. But then you ask your miraculous self for a download, kind of like a computer download of wisdom and knowledge and concepts and skills and abilities that will help you with your health. And I will say that, when I was in medical school, doctors would talk all the time about people getting better who weren't supposed to, and the opposite, people that should have been fine that weren't. And, so they are aware on some level that, that their model doesn't fit everything, but they're so trained to think of it in a particular way that most of them are just stuck in that thinking. And they're trained to think that all of this is woo-woo in spite of, in fact, this was years and years ago now, because I stopped doing that in 1985. But I was getting acupuncture, and it was really helpful. And I would sometimes have doctors go, well, I believe acupuncture can help with pain, but not with other things. And that was because in their map of reality, you must be hitting little nerve points, and that could block pain. That made sense to them. And I'd go, so it makes sense to you that acupuncture can help the most intractable problem in medicine, which is pain, but it can't do other things. I go, there's no logic in that. You think you're being logical. There is no logic in that. And sometimes they went, and other times, their walls were up. But yes, so you can deprogram yourself. There's also a lot you can do about emotions and about getting energetic support. But maybe the best thing, I could just take people through a process right now, if you'd like.
I love that.
Okay. So for people listening, you can do this. We've all got programmed about health constantly. And I mean, it even comes in from our ancestors. So when you were in the womb, your parents were energetically programming you. They didn't know they were doing it, but they were doing it. Even if let's say you never knew your father or mother, they still were programming you. And the programming comes from them, comes from their parents, your grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents. So a lot of the programming just doesn't fit. In energetic NLP, we don't get into the positive, negative thing, or we try to avoid it. It's like, it's either helpful or it's not. It's either appropriate for you or it's not. So, and the advantage of that, as soon as we call it negative, we start to get into judgment and we start resisting it. And everybody's heard what you resist persists, which is very true energetically. So we're just going, it's either helpful or it's not. And it might be helpful for Susan, not helpful for Art, So in this process, you're going to be deprogramming, programming you've gotten about your health from doctors, from friends, from your ancestors, from wherever it came from. And then you'll get a download from your miraculous self to open up more of your healing abilities. And I haven't done much with lupus. Years ago, I was living in San Francisco at the height of the AIDS epidemic when they really didn't have treatments. And I only worked with a few people, but they got amazing results. I mean, their blood tests would be different. Their doctors would go, I don't know what happened, kind of thing. So there was evidence that it worked, and they would feel better. They'd look better. They were. So, and just saying that to say that, I haven't done much with lupus. I think only one person. I worked with a number of people about AIDS, another autoimmune disease that was supposed to be incurable. So we have a saying in energetic NLP, this is easy. This is fun. And in fact, my Alexa may pop up at any time. I have to say that every now and then to remind them. And again, it's to get people to be playful during the process. And for everybody listening, other emotions and thoughts will come up. Don't fight them. Just be mindful of them. Just notice, part of me is going, how can we be playful, or this or that, or this is scary? And just notice those, but put your attention on bringing out your playful inner child, and just go, okay, we're just doing a little game here. may help me, might not.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in here and interrupt the program for just a hot minute. You know that I'm so passionate about this podcast, but what I'm also really passionate about is helping women with lupus minimize their symptoms, boost their energy so that they can indulge in life again. So if you are a woman who is struggling with lupus, who is sick and tired of being sick and tired, who's struggling to manage your flares, if you're finding that your lupus symptoms are just really getting in the way of you being able to live your life the way you want to, I feel you. I've been there myself and I felt the same way. And what I've found is that there are a certain set of health fundamentals that once applied will support you in your foundational health. They will support you in building and maintaining that energy, minimizing flares, and allowing you to, again, indulge in life and follow your passions. So if that is something that you are interested in creating for yourself, let's jump on a call together. I will walk you through the process that I use with my clients to get them from sick and tired to strong foundation of health by implementing my Health Bridge protocol. If this is something you're interested in chatting more about, I would love to talk to you. Apply for a free clarity call with me, and I look forward to getting to know you soon. And now back to the episode.
So the first thing, we'll create the miraculous self, then we'll do the deprogramming, then there'll be the new programming and the new resources. And again, if you compare it to like a download into your phone or computer, you want to make sure it's from a trusted source. So when I'm getting an update to my MacBook, I'm not like examining all the bits. And if I tried to do that, I would stop them. But I just make sure it's from a trusted source. Well, the programming is going to come from everybody's own miraculous self, their spirit and their inner wisdom. So you can trust it. You can trust it more than your conscious thoughts. So anybody listening, imagine, and if you're driving, turn this off for now, because whether you believe in remote energy or not, I'm going to be using it. And I work with a lot of high frequency energies that are designed to get you to go inward and make deep changes. You don't want to be inward when you're driving. So never listen to anything I do while you're driving. So everybody take an easy, deep breath. And imagine there's this giant gold ball, and it doesn't matter whether you see it in your mind's eye or you just pretend you're seeing it. And that's going to be our healing space, our Health Bridge healing space. And just imagine it's a place of miracles. Again, just pretend it. It's a place of miracles, a place of healing, a place where you feel loved, nurtured, acknowledged. It's a place where your spirit and your inner wisdom can guide you, nurture you, heal you, and help you manifest. Guide you, nurture you, heal you, and help you manifest. And then give permission, set your intention that your spirit and your deep inner human wisdom are going to create your miraculous self now. And this is it's so easy. A lot of people try to make it hard. It couldn't be simpler. It's just intention and permission. And your spirit knows what it is. Your deep inner human wisdom knows what it is. Your essence knows what it is. So let go of trying to figure any of this out. So just set your intention that your spirit and your deep inner human wisdom right now are going to align and create your miraculous self. And then give 100% permission to receive those benefits. It helps if you smile, then it's hard to take it as seriously. And then I'd like you to imagine that you have a miraculous self now. Again, you don't need to believe it, just imagine it for now, because it really is that easy. Now, in this process, and it's only going to take a few minutes, set your intention that in this process, you're going to clear some of the unconscious programming, energetic programming, and spiritual blocks to having a wonderful enhancement in your health. So you're going to be clearing unconscious programming, other people's thoughts and beliefs, energetic programming, and spiritual blocks to your having a wonderful enhancement in your health. And if you want to, you can just say yes to what Art said. And then give 100% permission to receive the benefits of what we're doing now. As a conscious being, you have a right to make choices in your life. And just be clear, I am choosing to receive the benefits. I'm choosing to have my health enhanced. Then give your miraculous self 100% permission to guide you on this journey. Turn over all the control to it. And then just imagine a whole symphony of energies are coming into your body and energy field that are loving, nurturing, healing. And these energies are going to work with your miraculous self. And your miraculous self is going to tell it, heal or dissolve this programming, heal or dissolve these beliefs that don't serve you. Heal and dissolve old emotional patterns that aren't serving you. And just imagine those energies are coming in and doing that. And we're not trying to do everything at once. This is recorded. You can watch it again. We call it the Goldilocks principle. Your miraculous self will do whatever's just right at this moment. Not too much, not too little, whatever's just right. Because again, you can repeat this as often as you want. And by the way, if you are watching this as a recording, if you're listening to it or watching it, if you pretend the energy is happening right now, you will access it. So if you're watching this as a recording, just imagine right now the energy is flowing, and it will. And programming exists all over your energy field. A lot of it's right in the top of your head. It's the bottom of the crown chakra, if you're familiar with that. There are also chakras above your head, and chakras are just energy centers. And you don't need to know anything about them because your miraculous self knows everything about them. And those chakras above your head set big frameworks for your life. What isn't possible. So imagine the energies reprogramming those upper chakras to allow for more and more miraculous health, miraculous healing, miraculous improvement and enhancement.
This is a This is a reminder. This is easy. This is fun.
So perfectly timed, the reminder, if you could hear it, this is easy, this is fun. Take a deep breath and just relax. Let your miraculous self and the energy do all the work. And imagine there's an energy magnet outside of you, and give your miraculous self permission to use it to gently pull out of you programming and beliefs that interfere with your health. Take a couple easy deep breaths, relax into the energy. And now set your intention, give permission that your miraculous self is going to download into you wisdom and knowledge, concepts, skills, abilities, attitudes, behaviors emotions, and energies that will enhance your healing. And just imagine, just like a download to your phone or computer, it's being downloaded into you, and then it's being assimilated into your energy field and body and personality. And let the energy work with your chakras, your energy channels, all the layers of your aura, your energy field. Let it work with your cells and your DNA, because along with the physical DNA, there are energetic strands of DNA. So let the healing come into your DNA, physical and non-physical, into your cells, your mitochondria, which are little organelles in the cells. Let the energy come into your organs, your body systems. Particularly let the energy come in and reprogram your immune system. Dissolving programming in your immune system that isn't helpful and reprogramming your immune system. Moving it away from autoimmune to a healthy immune system. Set your intention to give permission that tonight and for the next 14 nights, part of the time when you're sleeping, not all night, part of the time, your miraculous self and your unconscious mind will review this process you just did, this energetic NLP process. When it reviews it as you're sleeping, it'll be infused with wisdom and knowledge, concepts, skills, abilities, attitudes, behaviors, emotions, and energies from your miraculous self that will keep enhancing your health. And that'll cause the benefits to be deeper, richer, wider. It'll cause the benefits to be higher and more multidimensional. And while you're sleeping, the benefits will be automatically integrated into your mind, emotions, body, and energy field. So that while you sleep soundly, deeply, and wake up feeling refreshed, the benefits are automatically integrated into your mind, emotions, body, energy field, and personality. And that can happen easily, naturally, while you sleep soundly, deeply, and wake up refreshed and eager to start the new day. And that can happen easily, naturally tonight for the next 14 nights. And during this kind of process, people can mix up their energies. So send everybody else's energy back to them, retrieve your energy from everybody else. Imagine the earth grounds you, send a column of energy near the base of your spine, and any energies, programming your miraculous self wants to release, gently go down that programming into the earth, and the earth will just transmute them into pure energy. And your grounding also brings up from the earth, Mother Earth, Mother Nature energies that are loving, healing, nurturing, acknowledge your right to exist, that guide you, give you motivation, strength, energy, vitality, joy. So what your miraculous self wants to release is going down. What nurtures you is coming up. Let's dissolve our gold ball of energy and end this process. Let your miraculous self fill you up with more of your essence and supportive earth and universal energies. Again, into your chakras, energy channels, energy field, cells, DNA, organs, body systems, particularly immune system. And then wiggle your fingers and toes and stretch and move a little bit. It helps to stomp your feet, pat your body. Can even help to massage your ears. There's all these acupuncture points in your ears. You can pull them and massage them. And it's hard to take yourself seriously when you're pulling your ears, thinking if you can see yourself. And let's bring in some nice sparkling energy. Wake everybody back up. And by the way, for the listeners, it's very normal if you went, I remember the beginning of what Art said, and then I don't remember anything else. That's perfectly fine. That's great. You can always listen to the recording later. But as I mentioned, I work with some very high frequency energies, and they put people in a dreamy, altered state because that's a powerful state for making deep changes and enhancing your health. So how are you doing, Holly?
Good. My eyes are watering.
Oh, good. Oh, I
Yeah.
should have mentioned that. So sometimes eyes water, you may yawn, you may twitch. Sometimes people get body twitches. They're called kriyas. And I do want to mention, people are going to be processing this for at least a day. And so one of the things we want to do is release old emotional energies. And most of the time you don't even notice it. But tonight and tomorrow, if all of a sudden emotions are coming up, just be mindful of them and go, okay, I'm just releasing something. And don't pin it on the people you're around. Give them a get out of jail free card for a day or so. And again, you may not notice that, but sometimes emotions come up. So if they do, just go, oh, good, I'm releasing it. Just let it go.
That was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm hoping that everyone will save this somewhere where they can refer back to it. And, I'm saying this as a really great thing to do prior to doctor's visits, after doctor's visits,
Yes.
any challenging situation that might be coming up. And then, of course, also as I don't know what I want to say, like a multivitamin, right? Like using it to nourish, on a regular basis.
I would definitely agree with that. It's one of the great things if they bookmark or however they want to save it, save the link, doing it regularly, again, before doctor visits, after doctor visits. If you're feeling bad on a particular day, I would highly recommend it. And something that can supplement it. I have some free videos that will help people too, and that will, along with this, be really powerful.
Wonderful. And I'll make sure that we link those in the show notes
Great.
for everyone. How much, that was just a snippet, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to work with you, how do they find you? But also, can you kind of lay out what working with you might look like? Like how much further can we take this from what we just did today?
Yeah, this is scratching the surface of what we can do. And I have everything from private sessions to online recorded programs to live workshops to year-long trainings. I have a whole series of different programs. And the best way to find out about them is you can email us at support@energeticnlp.com. Another really good way is for those free videos, and they're at Blockbuster, one word, the number 7, numeral 7.com, blockbuster7.com. Then they'll get to see more of the work. And I always tell people that's a good way to know if you want to do more work with me, which of course I highly recommend. But from this and from that, you get a really good idea of the work. And like I said, I do everything from one-on-one sessions. I do a lot of group work, which has its own advantages too. Because when you're working with other people, you activate one another, and you both make the energy stronger. But also, somebody will bring up an issue, and you go like, "Oh, I hadn't even thought of that." So yeah, I have a full gamut. So
Wonderful. Well, Art, this has been an exceptional conversation, very, very educational, and I think it's going to help a lot of people wrap their mind around other possibilities that are out there. And while it may seem, a little funny, a little silly to be doing meditations and imagining things and being playful. I think one of the things that is so healing is the fact that it's playful, the fact that we can get down to, our childhood essence and use that to heal ourselves now in adulthood. So,
Thank you. And again, I just want to compliment you. I think the work you're doing is really important, and that you're embracing both, Western medicine and going, okay, it can help to a point, and we need to explore other possibilities. So I'm so glad you're doing this work in the world.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Art. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
How were you all feeling after that meditation? It felt wonderful to me. I'm familiar with energy healing. I do energy work on a regular basis remotely with a friend of mine who that is her practice and her business. Similar concepts to some of what Art was talking about. And I really enjoyed that meditation, and I will be referring back to it over and over. What I really like, and we didn't get into as much as we could have on this episode, but what I like about Art, we were discussing after we stopped recording how important it is to merge both Western and alternative modalities together in your healing journey. So if you're listening to this and you are somebody who has lupus or has another autoimmune disease or is facing any sort of health challenge, I want you to understand that both sides, both the alternative and the Western side, can have their own map of reality, right? Their own map of what is possible and what isn't. And they can't always learn to step outside of the box to respect that there are possibilities on both sides, right? And to both Art and myself, it's really important to stress the use of both together for the best possible outcomes. I mean, if you have lupus, if you have some other sort of really, nonlinear disease, something that is not very cut and dry and acute and straightforward, something like lupus is complicated, right? There's so many different things going on in so many levels. And I want to stress to you the fact that it's not just on a physical level. There are things going on that you are likely not even aware of on a soul level, on a spiritual level, on an energetic level, right? So working with different practitioners, doctors on both sides is really key, as well as incorporating, different lifestyle shifts as well. Those are all things that I coach on with my coaching business and with my coaching clients, I should say. And so utilizing a coach like me that can help you on that foundational level, utilizing someone like Art who can help you on that spiritual and energetic level, and utilizing your medical care team is so ideal. So if you have been going at this from just one approach, I invite you to open up that map of reality, step out of that box a little bit and start dipping your toe in to see what is available on, outside of what you've been doing already. Reach out to me for a free connection call where we can discuss what could be some really game-changing shifts for you moving forward in your health journey. Reach out to Art. He's got the free resources that we have linked down in the show notes. Make sure you utilize those and discuss with him if you want to move further. What he does is such a very powerful modality. And I think it could be very powerful for you to add that into your EMT, your excellence management team, to add that modality in. So again, we're here for your support. Thank you again for watching this episode. And I do again ask you as a favor to please like and share this episode with someone who you think might really benefit from this information. Our goal is to help as many people as possible open their eyes to, other possibilities that are out there for their healing. And anything you can do to help in sharing what we have to say is truly helpful. It helps spread our message further. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the Health Bridge podcast.